It's not really important where the cue ball is, just so we have an angle. Here's the bad part, or here's the bad news about this video, and this is really the bad news about bank shots. This is why you really don't want to depend on bank shots in your overall game to win. You really don't want to hang your hat on it. Certainly it can get you out of problems. Certainly it's won me very many games. But here's why I and others aren't going to go out and bank like Shannon Dalton or Freddie the Beard or Truman Hogue. Here's what I like to call the deal breaker. Very early on in the history of pool, one of the greatest innovations was the vulcanized material or rubber that makes up a rail. This is where a lot of your position play comes from, is understanding the interaction of a ball with the rail. Here's the problem. Not all rails are of the same consistency. This rail is different from this Olhausen rail is different from a Brunswick rail, which is different from a diamond rail. These rails are different from other rails like it depending on what kind of weather conditions it's been in. Has it been in somebody's open garage? Is it in a very humid environment? One thing that can damage a rail is a rail not getting used. If a rail lays for years and nobody ever plays on it, it dry rots like any other unused rubber. One night, after months of practicing this, I went to a tournament and thought I had my stuff down, and I set up a very simple bank shot that I would have made, say, 80% of the time at home, and the rail and the ball deflected completely differently. It was from the consistency of the rail being different. So that's the major variable that's going to frustrate you a lot of times when you move from table to table. The other variable that's hard to deal with is the speed of the cue ball going into the rail. And hopefully you can see this when I try to center this. Depending on the speed, even if you line it up perfectly like I just got through demonstrating, depending on the speed of the cue ball going into the rail is going to affect the angle of deflection. And this is why. If you come in very hard, very fast, the cue ball is going to bounce off the rail very quickly. So another way of saying it is the cue ball doesn't have a lot of time to interact with the rail. So the cue ball is going to deflect. It's going to be a more shallow angle. It's going to be a smaller angle. Okay? If you hit the cue ball lighter with slower speed, the cue ball has more time to interact with the rail. Thus, it's going to deflect at a wider angle. And a lot of that has to do with the type of spin that is on the cue ball. It's a common demonstration showing the effects of right and left English. If you use right English, of course the cue ball is going to deflect wider. If you use reverse English, the cue ball is going to deflect shallow. Okay. Now here's the importance of speed mixed with spin. If you get into the rail slowly, if you can see how the cue ball is impacting the rail, that English or that spin has more time to interact with the rail, thus making the angle of deflection greater. That's the basic principle at play here. Another principle at play, especially when you're using English, when the cue ball meets, there is a slight bit of transfer of English. And what I'm going to have to do is back this camera angle out so I can better demonstrate it. No matter what aiming system that you adopt to aim your bank shots, have some kind of consistent understanding. Try to develop a consistent understanding. Hopefully this demonstration has helped. You also need to understand the factors of speed and the factors of spin that affect a bank shot. And you have to consider that each rail is not made equally. you really have to have a feel for what equipment you're competing on. And you have to always keep in mind that bank shots aren't high percentage. That's why pros really don't go for it most of the time. Even when the bank shot is seemingly simple, they simply don't want to risk losing a game or a match because of some kind of funny rail. Just to give this video a little personality, I have a little show and tell to do here, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see it, but here on the shaft of my cue, I have the signature of none other than Eddie Taylor, and I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Eddie Taylor a few months before he passed away. He was one of the greatest, considered the greatest bank player of all time, and considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, one-pocket player. I was able to meet Eddie in his induction to the One Pocket Hall of Fame, where I was lucky enough to get his signature.